Hey everybody! Today we're going to be looking at how to write and solve one-step equations. Let's go ahead and just dive right in and take a look at this first equation. It says Amy has some money in her checking account. If she writes a check for $42.50, her checking account will be overdrawn by $23.75. Find how much money is in Amy's checking account now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for the information that I know. So I see that she has some money in her checking account. And that's what I'm looking to find. It says find how much money is in Amy's checking account now. Now, I don't know how much money she has in her account. I just know she has some money. So I can go ahead and use a variable to represent the money that Amy has in her checking account now. And I'm going to use the variable m because m is the same letter that starts with money. Now from there I see she writes a check for $42.50. I know that when somebody writes a check, that money is subtracted or taken out of their account. Now it says if she writes this check, her checking account will be overdrawn by $23.75. Now the word overdrawn means that she's going to be in debt. She has taken out too much money. So overdrawn tells me that $23.75 is going to be a negative value. So now I can kind of put this together. Amy has some money, M, in her account. She writes a check, which means I'm going to subtract, for $42.50. And if she does this, her bank account will equal a negative $23.75 because her account will be overdrawn. Now, unfortunately, I am not able to highlight the corresponding parts, but you should see that I can match each part of my equation to part of the word problem. So now that I wrote my equation, I can go ahead and solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my fence. Now if I look over here, it says m minus $42.50. I have subtraction. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So now I'm going to add $42.50 to both sides. Now you should start seeing something interesting. So let's check it out in more depth. Our opposites make that zero pair. So on the left side, we can just bring down the m. We can bring down our equal sign. And now you should see on this side, we have a negative and we have a positive. So you better believe I want to see some direction arrows. A negative number is going to the left. A positive number is going to the right. So right here, you should see that our signs are different. So we're going to have to subtract and keep the larger sign. So right now, you should be thinking to yourself, which one do you have more of? Well, we definitely have more positive here than we have negative. So on the side, I'm going to take $42.50 and I'm going to subtract the $23.75. Notice as I'm doing this, I'm lining up my decimal points because when we add and subtract, those decimals just stay in a pretty little line. So I have 0. I cannot take away 5, so I must go next door and borrow. My 5 becomes a 4. My 0 is a 10, and 10 minus 5 is 5. I cannot do 4, take away 7, so I need to go next door and borrow. The 2 becomes a 1, my 4 becomes a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I cannot do 1, take away 3, so I have to go next door and borrow. My 4 becomes a 3, and my 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 3 is 8, woo! And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So I get that m is 18.75. So remember, this was a word problem, and you really want to try to make sure that your answer makes sense in the context. It says find how much money is in Amy's checking account now. So I can say Amy has $18.75 in her checking account now. Account now. Sorry, my handwriting looks like I'm 5. So that would be my final answer. Now this makes sense. She doesn't have a ton of money in her account. If she writes this check, she's going to be in debt. So my answer not only makes sense in the context, but it makes sense in the fact that she should not have enough money to write that check for $42, which is definitely the case. So let's go ahead and take a look at one more problem. So this one says Tyler received a notice from his bank account that the balance in his checking account was negative $12, not the zero that he expected. He realized that he forgot to record the time when he used his debit card to buy bus tokens for $1.50 each. How many bus tokens did Tyler buy? Well, a couple things that you should notice. The question, how many bus tokens did Tyler buy, is our variable. We have no idea how many bus tokens he bought. So I'm going to use T for tokens. Now you should notice when people write a T in math, we tend to give it a little curly tail at the bottom, because if you don't, a T can often look like a plus sign, and we don't want that. Now, when I go back, it says that the balance in his checking account was $12. So what's happening is this is what my bank account is going to equal. When it says not the zero he expected, this is called a distractor. I don't care what he thinks or what he thought he had in his bank account. I care how much he does have in his bank account. Now, it told us that he forgot to record the time when he used his debit card to buy bus tokens for $1.50 each. Now, there's a lot going on in this little phrase. If we're buying something, money is being subtracted or taken out of our account, which means when we see $1.50, this is actually a negative amount. Now, the word each signals to me that if I take the number of bus tokens he bought, and I multiply it by $1.50, I should be able to figure out how many bus tokens he bought. So I'm going to create the equation, $1.50 times the number of bus tokens is equal to negative 12. Because that's how much he spent all together on these bus tokens. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw my fence. I have $1.50 times T. Times means multiplication. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to go ahead and divide. Oh man, guys, you know what I forgot? What a bummer. I totally forgot that this $1.50 needs to be negative. I'm glad I caught that. So remember, if we're buying something, we're spending money. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by a negative $1.50. I almost divided by a positive. And again over here, a negative $1.50 divided by a negative $1.50 creates 1. And 1 times T is just T. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. And over here, you should notice we have a negative divided by a negative. If we need to, we can go ahead and use our tic-tac-toe chart to figure that out. And I know that down here, negative times a negative is a positive. And now I need to go and divide. Remember, we need to take our divisor and make sure it's a whole number. So I need to go ahead and move this decimal 1 time to the right to create a whole number. Whatever I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top. So I'm going to add that decimal into 12, and I'm going to move it 1 time to the right. So this becomes 120 divided by 15. So 120 goes inside my house. I'm dividing it by 15. 15 can't go into 1. 15 can't go into 12, but 15 can go into 120, a beautiful even 8 times, because 8 times 15 is 120. So I can see that Tyler bought 8 bus tokens, and I could go ahead and write that in a sentence. Tyler bought 8 bus tokens, and we can always go back and check our answer. I could take 8 and multiply it by a negative $1.50 to make sure it equals the negative $12 that he spent. Well, I'm really sorry about that little hiccup with the negative. Hopefully that didn't throw you off too much. I hope you are all having a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.